Hello, and thank you for visiting the SEDM website and watching this video demonstration of how to use and view our documents with Adobe Acrobat Reader. This presentation will take approximately 10 minutes, and you will need to have Adobe Acrobat Reader. The version you're seeing here is version 9.4 installed on your system. You can obtain that free reader from www.adobe.com. What you see in front of you is the Acrobat Professional product, which is a premium product for those who actually produce the PDFs, but the Windows interface here and the toolbars that you're going to see are very similar to what you would see in the free reader. Throughout this presentation, we will use certain instructional techniques. On your screen here you have a mouse cursor, and that mouse cursor is surrounded by a yellow circle to help you follow the movements of the mouse. And when we click on things, you will hear a clicking noise and you will see a red circle emanate from the center of the mouse cursor. Let me demonstrate. All of the documents available from SEDM use the Adobe Acrobat Reader, with the exception of possibly our response letters, which use Microsoft Word. Everything available from our website is published in Adobe Acrobat version 7.0 or later. So you can have any version of Adobe Acrobat installed from 7.0 on and be able to read and use our documents. All of our documents are copy protected, meaning that you cannot select and copy text from the documents. If you're looking at a form, then you can fill in the fields and you can save the completed form with the data filled in, but you cannot select or copy text within the document, or extract pages or insert pages, because the security features built into Adobe Acrobat are used to enforce the security that we implement. And you can tell from the document displayed here on the screen that this is a secure document because it tells you the file name. Within the file name it tells you whether the document is secured or locked or not. In this case it says secured. So this is a secure document, which means you cannot select or copy text or extract or insert pages into the document. You can print the document, you can view the document, but you cannot edit or extract any portion of the document from the document. And we do that for the reason that we want to ensure that people do not steal our intellectual property, and also to ensure that our information is not changed or used in a context that we did not specifically authorize, because very commonly freedom lovers and those who are involved in legal battles like to take our information and insert all kinds of crazy arguments into it, and we want to discourage people from doing that. The document you see in front of you is downloaded off of the SEDM Forms page, and it is Form 05.030, Government Instituted Slavery Using Franchises. And had you downloaded that document from our website and opened it in Adobe Acrobat, this is what you would see. By default, the document opens up with bookmarks displayed on the left, and the bookmarks basically replicate the table of contents of the document, and that table of contents is at the beginning of the document. So if we page down, I'm going to hit the page down key, here's the table of contents. You can see that the bookmarks on the left follow exactly the table of contents here. And so the bookmarks are intended to make it easier to navigate the document. So you can scroll up and down through the document table of contents, and if you click on one of these items, it'll take you directly to that section, section 2.2. If you want to go back to the beginning, you can click up here. This takes us to the table list of tables, and we can scroll up further if we want. Scroll up and scroll down. We can use this scroll on the right hand side here to scroll up and scroll down by page, and it tells us what page number we're viewing. Or we can also click somewhere in this area here, and we can hit home to go to the beginning of the document. That's another way. We can also, if we want more screen space, we can turn off the bookmarks view by clicking on this little left arrow here, collapse, so we get a better view. If we want to open up the bookmarks again, we can turn them back on. What you see at the top here are all the default menus that would normally come up when Acrobat loads. And there are toolbars here below the main toolbar at the top. There are several optional toolbars. There's the file toolbar here, the page navigation toolbar. If we move the cursor over the vertical line here, that is the start, that represents the start of that particular toolbar. You can see all the different toolbars that are loaded. Select and zoom, page display, and we can move these toolbars around too. We can click on the vertical line here, and we can move them wherever we want. See, if we want to move this one over here, there we go. And we can move this up next to the end of the last one, up higher. There we go. We can slide it over. So we can arrange our screen however we want. We can also turn toolbars on and off. We can click on the view menu here, and we can select toolbars, and here are all the toolbars. So over here, the main one we're going to use, by the way, is page display for this particular presentation. But anyway, so the page display toolbar is right here, page display. Okay, so we just turned it off. So let's turn it back on again, page display. Now, when you're actually just simply reading the document and absorbing it like you would a book, then you probably aren't going to want to have all this information overload displayed on the screen. You probably aren't going to want to see all these toolbars and menu bars and everything else. And Adobe has a special mode for viewing documents if you just want to read them. And the interface is very similar to a book, and it's very convenient, it's very appealing. We're going to show you how to use that. But we want to familiarize you with the toolbars first. So this is the default display, and the bookmarks ordinarily are used when you first open the document to find the section you want to read or the page you want to read. There's also a page display here, pages panel. These are individual pages by page number. So you can click on a specific page number that you want to go to. That would be useful if you are reading it like a book and you got interrupted and you wrote down the page number where you're at. If you want to go back to that page number, this is one way you can find the page that you were at where you left off last time. Or you can go up to the top here in the page navigation pane up here, and this will allow you to go up or down the page that you're on. Notice it displays which page we're on here. Or we can simply type in the one we want to go to. So we'll type in 100 and hit enter, and that takes us to page 100. Now the page number that we see up here is the Acrobat page number, and not to be confused with the document page number, because they may not correlate. In this case they do, but ordinarily they wouldn't. So because what we do with all of our documents is we break them down by section number. So we have a section number prefix in front of the page number, and every time you start a new section, the page numbering starts over again. But in this particular case, the document is page numbers correlate with the Acrobat page numbers. So we call this the document page number down here on the bottom, 100 of 379, and this is the Acrobat page number. So if you're referring to a particular page when you're corresponding with us, please ensure that you mention which of these two types of page numbers that you're dealing with. So let's go back to the bookmark page display on the left here panel, and so now we've gotten to the place that we want to be in the document to begin our reading. And so now we would probably want to collapse the bookmark display like this, and then we also might want to maximize. Now these are the display modes. So right now we're in the full page display mode. We can also click here to fill the window with each page to scroll through it. So if we click on this, it'll maximize to the page width for that particular page, and we can scroll up and down through the document that way. It looks just like a regular document. Or we can go back to the main page display. Now this may not be terribly legible, but if you have a large monitor and you fill the screen with this particular application, then you can read it just like you would a book, and the pages are probably about the same size as a book at that point, and so it's very convenient to use. Now there are options in this page display toolbar here, and the page display toolbar right now goes from here over to here to the next toolbar, the Find toolbar. And you can see right now there's only two options, but we can change those options. If we right click right on the vertical bar here, then we can add additional options to this toolbar. We can, for instance, use a 2-up mode. We can add a 2-up mode to it. A 2-up mode allows you to look at pages side by side. So if we click on this, voila, we have exactly what we would see if this were a printed book. And this is the mode that we prefer, because we like to maximize the application to fill the screen and put it in the 2-up mode and just sit there and read it like we would a book. And we have a large monitor, and it's high resolution, and so it's very convenient. And it's actually much better than a book because we can actually search the document as well. And in this case, if we wanted to search, then for instance, we could go over here to the Find toolbar, and we could type in what we're looking for. Like here's a word here we could search for, USA passport. So we could type in USA passport, and then we could hit enter, and it takes us right to that value. So it found it for us, which is very convenient. If we had a regular book, we couldn't do that. So the need for an index, for instance, is not as pressing if you're looking at an electronic version of a book than if you are reading a printed book. We also emphasize that as of this year, 2010, Amazon reports that the sales of electronic books now surpasses by a large margin the sales of printed books. So it appears to us that our readers prefer to obtain our materials in electronic form, and in this case in Acrobat form. Adobe Acrobat documents, by the way, can be viewed in eBook readers such as the Amazon Kindle, the Barnes & Noble Nook, the Sony Reader, the Microsoft Reader, and so on. So you can use these books, all of the documents on this website you can use in your actual eBook reader and carry it around with you. You can also put the books in on a USB flash disk and carry them around, or you can copy them on your laptop, however you want. It's much more compact and much more convenient. It would be impractical for us to distribute our materials in paper form because they are updated very frequently, and most of our inventory would be out of date most of the time if we had paper books. The other thing we wanted to show you is that our website has a page that describes how to use our electronic documents with eBook readers, and that would be found here on our website, if you go to the support page and then you look under frequently asked questions, there's an item number 1 here, why our users prefer ebooks. So if we click on that, we can see information about compatibility of our ebooks with existing ebook readers and compatibility with Adobe Acrobat, what versions, and so on. And also how the download process works and how to view the document, how to use them. This particular presentation will supplement this page, actually. So let's go back to the Acrobat display again. Here. So this is the normal mode we would use if we're just reading the document like a book. And if we want to reclaim some of our screen space by turning off all this garbage on the screen and get rid of all these tabs over here and all the menus temporarily while we're reading it, then we can implement a special mode. Adobe Acrobat has a special viewing mode for people who are using this like a book. And on the keyboard we would select Control and then H, as in hotel. Okay, Control and then H. Hold those 2 keys down, and then you will see all the menus disappear, and the window will be maximized to offer the largest view of the document. Let me demonstrate. Control and then hit H. There we go. See, all the menus, all the toolbars disappeared, and we've maximized the document screen space so we get the best view of the document while we're reading it. And then when we're finished reading it, we want to use the toolbars again. We can hit Control H again, Control and then H, I just hit, and now we got our toolbars back. So very convenient, very simple, very easy. Adobe Acrobat is a very large application. It has many options, and we aren't going to get into most of those options here. We're just showing you the very basics here that you need in order to read and use and navigate and print our documents and fill in our forms. So speaking of printing, if we wanted to print this document, there's a print here, a printer button. We could click this and print to our printer. We can navigate pages up and down. We can see which page number we're on. We can change the page number. We can look at how many pages here are in the document. We can change the view. We can modify the toolbars by right-clicking on the vertical here and adding additional options. We can rotate pages, scroll pages, and so on. We can also search. We already showed you how to search for USA Passport. Let's try that again. There it is. Now if we wanted to hit the next instance of that value, we would click this. Find next. There we go. Or we can click on this and find previous and go back to the previous one. And we can also zoom in and zoom out with these controls here, which we're not going to do because it'll corrupt our display. But those are the main navigation things that we would use. And most of this other stuff is unnecessary. And so you might want to go in and disable some of this stuff. Like this one here is the tasks bar. You might want to disable that one. If we wanted to disable that toolbar, then we go to Toolbar and look for tasks right there, and it disappeared. There we go. If we want to get rid of some of the garbage on the screen, or we can turn it on back on. Toolbars, tasks. There we do. There we go. Hit Control H again. Control and then H. If we want to read, then when we want to go out of the read mode, Control H again. If we want to navigate to a different part of the document, we can scroll down like this. Go to that portion. If we want to see just one page, right here. If we want to zoom in to that area, we can click on Click to fill the window. There we go. If we're just looking at a portion of a page at a time, and we can see here that this horizontal line is the page breaks. Most of our documents have line numbers. That's what these small numbers are on the left over here. These are line numbers. In the legal field, most lawyers will put line numbers on their documents, the pleadings that they file with the court. And they will put line numbers so that they can be referenced. We put the line numbers in our documents for the same reason, because when people are reading our materials and they're critiquing them and commenting on them in our forums, then they need a way to refer to the documents. So if you find something wrong, or you want to add something to our document, you want to make a suggestion, then we would appreciate if you would reference the following things in the document, so we know exactly what portion of the document and what document you're speaking of. So you should reference the document name here, Government Instituted Slavery Using Franchises. Every document that we publish in the footer tells you the name of the document in the lower left corner of every page, and the page number is usually over here. And then we have the form number. So if you wanted to refer to this document and you wanted to refer to, let's say, this paragraph, then you would say Government Instituted Slavery Using Franchises, form number 05.030 and revision number 1-26-2009. And then we would say then we'd say page 190 here, page 190, and lines 38 through 43 if we were referring to this particular paragraph. Please make sure you include all those elements. Let me repeat again: the document name, the form number, the revision date, the page number over here, and the lines that you're referring to that have the problem, and then whatever text in there that is problematic if there's a misspelling or a grammar problem. The other thing people like to use Adobe Acrobat for is they will use it to comment on documents. They'll put sticky notes inside the document to mark certain locations. Unfortunately, the way our documents are formatted, commenting is not permitted. So if we were to open up the comments toolbar here, Toolbars, comment and markup, you'll see that all of the options there are grayed out, which means they're not enabled in our documents, any of them. So we will turn that off because we don't need it. Now we could turn it off here. I think we could also turn it off here. There we go. We just right click on the vertical bar at the beginning of that particular thing. So there we go. So we've showed you how to navigate the document, how to turn on and off the bookmarks and the pages panels on the left, how to change the page mode displays, 2 up, single page, fit to width, and so on. We've showed you how to search text, and we have showed you how to zoom. We've showed you how to print, and those are the basic navigational things that you're going to need to do in Adobe Acrobat. Now the next thing that we want to show you is how to use a different type of a document. And for instance, here is a form available on our website that we just opened. And in this case it would be affidavit of citizenship, domicile, and tax status. And this would be, let's put that on. Scroll down, you can see it yourself. And by the way, this little hand here, that hand only works if you have, in this particular select and zoom panel, if you have the hand clicked. If you don't, then the hand won't work. If we have the hand enabled, then we can click, hold down the mouse like we're doing now, and then move it up and down and move through the documents like that. So in this case, the display is a little different, so let's move it over here like it was on the other one. Move that toolbar over here, and let's put them a little closer to each other. Oops. Put it over here. Right there. There we go. Now the other thing that's different about this particular display is there's this new pink toolbar at the top. And this pink toolbar only appears if you're using forms. And there's a button on the right hand side, and the purpose of this toolbar is to make it simpler to fill in the fields on the form. So if we go to the single page mode like this, and then we hit page down to go to the next page, let's keep doing it. There we go. Okay, now if we want to see all the fields on this form, then we can click here to highlight them. There they go. Okay, now let's fit to width. There we go. Now you see how all the fields now on this form are highlighted, and the purpose for highlighting is to show you where the data needs to be filled in by you, the user of the form. And if we click on this button again, they're unhighlighted, so you have to guess where the fields are. And there are various types of fields. For instance, this is a checkbox. If we click on this, notice it checks. And up here is just basically a text field, and we can type in the name and fill in the field just the way we want it. And then after we have it filled in, then we can print it. And only after we have it filled in would we ordinarily print it. Now, if we have a retail version of the Adobe Acrobat installed on our system, then it will enable us to not only fill in the fields, but we can also save the form with the values that we filled in, so that we can reuse the filled in form at a later date. So if in this case we put John Doe, then we could save as, and then save this as whatever name we want filled in. So we could say in this case affidavit of citizenship, domicile, and tax, and then we could say after the name, when we save it, we could, let's say here, let's try that. So we'll say file, save as. Okay, so then we could over here we could just say filled in. So we saved a filled in form after we filled it in, and then we could open that file from then on as a way to reuse what we've done and save us some work. However, the free Adobe Reader on the Adobe Acrobat or the Adobe website, www.adobe.com, that free reader, it's our understanding that that free reader does not allow you to save filled in forms. If you want the fill in feature to work with the reader that you have to the point where you could save a completed document, then you'll need to spend money to buy a retail version of Adobe and not use the free reader. But that's your choice. Otherwise, so if all you have is the free reader on your machine, then every time you want to use one of our forms or fillable forms, then you're going to have to retype in all the information on the form. That's your choice. Now, the retail version of Adobe, there are several different types. You know, there's the Adobe Standard, there's Professional, and so on. So how much money you want to spend will determine which version you get. The lowest cost version is about $250, I believe. So you get to decide which version you want to buy if you want to reuse completed forms from our website, or if you want to produce your own PDFs. So just like on the eBook that we looked at earlier, the Government Instituted Slavery Using Franchises, we can also use the same techniques here to view the document. So we can look at the whole page, we can fit to width, we can do 2 up and see multiple pages at a time. We can hit Control and then H to turn off all the toolbars and maximize the display, and hit Control H again to go back and get all of our toolbars back. So we can use all the same things. We can search just like before over here, the search panel. If the search panel is not displayed, we can add it. we can actually right-click anywhere in the blank area on the toolbar area, and we can turn on or off any one of the toolbars that we want. So if we don't need, let's say, the tasks menu, we can turn that off. There it is. So there's lots of neat features here, and you're going to have to play with this to get used to it. And we're primarily doing this video for people who are not computer literate and who have never used Acrobat or who aren't familiar with all the features, and we're doing this as a way to make it easier for you to use and view our documents. And one of the reasons why we feel a need to do that is because sometimes our users will complain that we aren't able to provide a printed version of our documents, and the main reason they complain is sometimes is because usually because they are old-fashioned and they're not computer literate, or because they prefer a printed book. But as you can see, the electronic version of the book makes it much easier to navigate, to search, to view, and especially to distribute. We have a very large audience of people, and it would just be a logistical nightmare to try to physically ship all of the documents, all of the books that we make available to people. At this point in time, the SEDM website has over 1,000 forms and books available for download and use, and it would just be a nightmare to try to distribute all that information manually, and we just don't want to do it. It just would not be cost effective because for several reasons, but we just have made a decision only to distribute the information electronically. One other thing we wanted to point out about the use of the form mode in Adobe Acrobat, and that is go into the single page display, fit to width, and then we'll scroll down here to the form. Now the other thing we want to point out is that in some cases there are on our forms there are places where the same value appears in many places on the form. For instance, in this particular block we have the name, and that name could appear in several places on the form. And the way the documents are set up, many of them, is that if you enter that name value in one block, then all the blocks that use that name will also automatically be filled in at the same time. And so you may have only typed it once, and you may see it several places on the form. And the reason is because they're all linked together, and they all update together. So, and that is meant to save you time of having to fill in the same thing over and over. So that's an important advantage of the way we produce our forms. Another thing we want to point out is that ordinarily if you're using our forms, you're going to have the highlight fields button pushed. You're probably going to want to make sure it's pushed so you know where all the fields are. Otherwise you'll have a hard time finding them. So by default you're probably going to want to leave that on all the time, the highlight fields. If you want help on how to use this application, you can click on the help menu and click here, and that'll take you to web-based help. Another thing we want to point out that's really advantageous, let's go back to the book that we were looking at right here. The other thing we want to point out is that many of our documents have links in them, and the links will look just like, see all these links here? The links will be activated. So if we, here, let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay, links will be activated, and they will appear the same as they would in a web page. So if we put our cursor over the link, you can see the cursor says W, meaning that it's going to go to the web, and it tells us where on the web that it's going to go to. And if we actually click this link, it will take us to that location on the web, and we can read it for ourselves. That's a very important advantage to people who are new to this and who want to minimize their research time because it takes them right to the resource that they're looking at. So if we wanted to read this particular case, we can click on this and that particular case would open in our web browser. We're not going to do that now, but that particular case, if we clicked on this, would open in our web browser and we could read it for ourselves. We could look for that language all by ourselves just by reading the reference link. Now in some cases, if we click on some of the links are not current. So for instance, if it's a much older document and things have moved around, then the link may not work. But the vast majority of links available in our documents will work, and you can read them yourself. And this will accelerate the learning process considerably because it'll make it easier for you to locate and verify the information that we're referencing. And we encourage you to do that. As a matter of fact, one of the main reasons these documents are posted on the web to begin with is to facilitate peer review. We want people, lots of people, reading these documents, verifying their accuracy, and if they locate something that's wrong, let me show you where to go to report that. So if we go to the web, our website, here, where we were before, and we hit the back button, then we can go to the forums. And if we scroll down in the forums, you can see at the very bottom of the forums here, you will see a section for errata reports. So what we would do if we wanted to report the problem is we first of all would need an account on this forums in order to do it, which means we have to consent to become a member. We have to consent unconditionally to the member agreement when we join, and that's a subject for another day. But anyway, if we click on errata reports, then we can report an error right here. So we would click on Start New Topic here, and then we would fill in the details for the problem. And when we fill in those details, once again, let me emphasize one more time that we have to provide certain very basic information about exactly what document and what page and what version number and what line number that the problem occurs on. All of those things must accompany the error report, and if they don't, then you're going to make a lot of trouble for us trying to locate what it is that you're talking about. In many cases, people for instance, omit the version number of the document. So we're looking at the wrong version when we try to find the thing that they are talking about because they didn't bother to go to the website and open the latest or download the latest document. Once again, we emphasize that the documents on our website are updated very frequently, and so it's very important that you go back periodically and look for an updated version of the document, and so that when you come to this errata page here, errata reports, you will be providing comment on the very latest document, because in many cases, if you're reading an older document, then the error that you're reporting may already be fixed, and you may be cluttering our forums with information about errors that don't even exist in the currently published versions of the documents. So anyway, after you enter the errata report here, then ordinarily someone from the ministry will respond to your post and they'll tell you whether it was correct or incorrect. And if it was incorrect, they will fix it and they will repost the document, and they will tell you here that they reposted or fixed the document. And in many cases, if we hit the back button, you will see that you'll see up here, in many cases, you'll see, for instance, under website updates, Forum 1.1, you will see a new entry added here that talks about changes to all of our forms. If you want to see a list, an itemized list of all the changes that have been made to every document on the website, this is the place to go. Website updates, Forum 1.1. And this is very helpful because if you are following our materials and reading them, you've probably read a lot of them, and you probably don't want to have to reread them because some of them can be rather large. And if you want to avoid having to duplicate effort and reread materials that you've already read before, then it's really useful to be able to go back to the website updates section of our website and look at only the changes and go back to the documents, the new documents that have been added or the old documents that have been updated. And that way you only have to read the changes and not the whole document again. Okay, that can be very helpful to minimize the amount of effort you have to expend to stay up to date. So anyway, another thing we want to show you here is that there's a lot of information on our support page about problems you might have with Adobe Acrobat. So we'll click on support here, come down here, problems accessing, viewing, or reading files on this website, section 4 of the support page. So there's a lot of common problems that people have. They may not be able to read an Acrobat file with their browser, and usually that's caused by having an older version of Adobe Acrobat installed. For instance, you're running Adobe Acrobat 4 or 5 instead of the latest free one, and so the documents won't display, or they'll be corrupted, or you'll get weird errors. And so it's very important to go back to the Adobe Acrobat, the Adobe website, and download the free version, the latest free version of Acrobat at all times. You probably want to do that at least twice a year, and probably more often, to make sure that you're not going to have problems reading or viewing any of the documents on this website or using them in your browser. Sometimes the display can be corrupted. That's another problem with using an older version. The text might be too small. Those are the main things that you're going to have with problems you're going to have with Acrobat. And of course, this particular discussion, this training, only references the use of Acrobat and not all things. But if you're having a problem for any reason viewing, reading, or accessing documents on our website, we recommend that you go to our support page and read through and look at the items in section 4. And you may also want to look under frequently asked questions here, how to use decompression utilities. Sometimes our documents are compressed into a single file, and we do that for several reasons, as explained here. The most prevalent reason why we might compress a document is into a single zip file is because we may have multiple documents to distribute as a group or even a whole directory structure, and we like to be able to distribute that with one click. One thing you have to download, and then you can open it up and extract all the information that way. Otherwise, there would be a lot of extra links and a lot of unnecessary complexity to the website trying to provide all the items that are within that zip file. So we simplify things considerably by using compression utilities. Anyway, most of the questions you might have with how to use eBooks from our website, and of course that would include forms as well, are right here on the frequently asked questions page. Item 1, why our users prefer eBooks. And it tells you about some of the compatibility issues, how to use the information that we provide with an ebook reader, how the download process works, and so on. So let's go back to the opening screen. There we go. This concludes our description, our presentation on how to use Adobe Acrobat to view, read, print, and fill in documents available on our website. We hope you've enjoyed the presentation. We hope it makes your experience on the website more enjoyable. Thank you for visiting, and God bless you.